I have a coolant loss. Really can't see it from the top too well, but I do see it from underneath on a puddle. So when I do a pressure test, so I'm going to get it up in the air, have my pressure tester on it, and then kind of isolate it, and then eventually take the top off here, get things out of my way. I like to have a little bit of room, and I'll find out what's going on. So here I go again. I'll be pulling, of course, the intake off here, get this out of the way. More than likely, I'm going to be pulling my throttle body off. All the hoses and this up here will come off along with belts, and I'll put new belts on, get down to it. I've snaked it in with a camera down through here, but I can really see from the bottom, so I'm going to put the car up in the air, take a peek underneath and see what's going on. We have a pinhole in this plastic right there, and that's where the leak is. So I'll be getting a new housing here. This is where, right where this seam is. I can't dry it fast enough. I've got about 14 pounds of pressure on the cooling system, but it's right there, starting right here and coming down and dripping down and dripping down and dripping down. And this has just been sitting for about 2 minutes. Of course, atmospheric, there's no pressure on the system, so that's where my water leak was. Right, after taking this off, the way this sits on here is like this. I turn this over, the leak was coming down because I'm looking at it from underneath the car right there. The seam is right here, and this is, the seam runs right along, kind of like this split, and that's where it was leaking. Clean up the surface to make it a little bit smoother when I slide the new one over with the O-ring in it, and I'll lube that up a little bit. But I have the aluminum piece here. I'm going to be using this one. I'm going to test and find out if everything works and people complain about it. But the easiest way to get this on, because it does have that little notch right there, and that has to line up with the notch which is down underneath on the bottom of this. So the best thing to do is I'm going to take this hose off and get it out of my way, and take the 2 bolts off for the thermostat housing and pull that back so that you can put this on and then slide the whole thing as a unit, and just using one, by just getting one hose on there. Here's the old part. This broke off, and then of course the leak was at the seam. That's the old one. This is the dormant part, which is this one here, 626-541. I'm going to try this piece just to see what happens. A lot of people complain about them leaking, not have a good fit, but I did a test fit without the O-ring. It comes with the O-ring. So I did a test fit without the O-ring. It's snug with the O-ring. It should be fine. I do also have, this is where the upper radiator goes to. I use my adapter from Power by the Hour, and I've already done a test fit on that, and it fits fine. So you got to remember that there's a notch here, and that tab is going to line up with this tab here, so when it goes on, it snaps on right. I think it's mainly for the stock hose. And the same thing for the lower. piece where it goes on to the thermostat housing, which is still in the car, it has a slot right here, and that's going to go in. And I disconnected the thermostat housing from the block because it's easier to put this on and have it all on as in one piece, and then slide this hose on the housing to the manifold, because you can't fight. It's just too hard to fight this short hose, the short big hose, and get all this lined up. So this way, this will be on, that'll slide on, and then we'll put the 2 bolts in. So when I get that done, I'll kind of walk over there with the camera, and the rest is pretty much easy to do. So that's the new one. I did purchase a stock hose. I may just keep this just in case. But this is a stock hose just like this. It's just turned upside down. And that part number is right here. So that's going to be put in the shelf. I also bought the O-rings that go inside as well as the outside, and the thermostat housing. I got a double set of rings, so I have some backups. But when you're doing this, I just advise, even though they say they don't come with the O-ring, but it did, just in case, order the kit. They're not talking a lot of money, and it's better safe than sorry. Lucky it'll snap. There we go. Okay, so that's snapped in, and then I'm going to put this hose on here, and as I go, started. House. Okay. One thing I'm going to add with the power by the hour setup, this lower tensioner for the outer belt, basically that runs the water pump and such, sits way down here, and it actually has to come out. Both belts have to come out anyway, but it has to come off in order to get the alternator and air conditioning belt off. So in the order is the alternator AC belt goes around the idler and around the crank pulley, the inner belt. That's going to go on now. So I'll fish that one back in with the camera off. And then I'll put the outer one on, put the tensioner back on, then I'll put the outer one on, and then finish buttoning this up. So you can barely make out how this goes, but this belt goes around the water pump, up under the pulley here, the idler, over the, or excuse me, around the power steering, underneath the idler, around the water pump, back over the tensioner, back around over the crank. And the inner side here comes up around the crank, over the alternator, straight down to the AC, and then it just kind of just loops straight up right here over the tensioner and then back down around the crank. So kind of a puzzle, but it's doable all from the top, but a little bit of work. You do have to take this idler off here, or excuse me, this tensioner, because it's too tight to get this belt in between the tensioner spring housing and the crank damper pulley. So then I'm going to let it get warmed up, and then I will do another pressure test just to make sure everything's good. So right now, I'm good. It's running again, but we're not done.